Welcome back. Right, on to the next stage, which is an unexpected stage, but what I've done, I've added a bit to the sketch. So I want to check that the hour hand does line up properly with the hour written on the dial. Now up to 6 is okay, 7 is okay, and then look, 8, it goes too far. Now I reckon what that's caused by, and I remember having this problem before, is the sloppiness. There's a slight amount of slop in the small stepper motors because of the number of gears that they have. And then obviously 12 would be fine because that's the switch, the micro switch. Oh, the joys of micro switches. Reciprocating chronometer. And see how long ago I was doing that. You can see all the cobwebs on it, and I have cleaned cobwebs off it in the past. The problem with this was because of all the gears and everything between the snail cam that's behind there, driven by the hour spindle on the clock movement, and this bit and the weight of the arm, it would slop around after it had reached vertical. So what I did here was well, in the end, as you can see, I got very frustrated and ended up putting a little chain with a lead weight on the end wrapped around the spindle, so it's always pulling it that way. Here is some much thinner spring steel. I've got some thicker spring steel which has been useful, but was too thick because I tried that as well to make coil springs, well, this sort of coil spring from. This is thinner. This is actually purchased by my daughter and used for taxidermy. I hasten to add, she doesn't go out hunting or killing anything. She taxidermies mice that have already been put to sleep, ready to feed to lizards and things that you can get from pet shops, which is an interesting hobby. I can't bear it personally. Well, the finished items are very interesting, especially after the dog's got one of them. And yes, anyway, I'm going to use this, and I'm hoping, because it's much more bendy, that I can coil it. Now my plan is not to make one of these, but just to illustrate a point, this was made from my thicker spring steel, and these sort of springs are pretty easy to make. You basically just get a spindle on something like a lathe, fix the end of the wire on, and then turn the lathe by hand, I'd recommend, unless you've got a very slow motor, winding and pulling it taut as it goes on, and then pulling it apart a bit, and you can get a lovely spring that way. But a flat coil spring I can't do like that, so I've been thinking about it, and obviously I need to constrain the sides, the two sides of springs. I'm going to get a bit of studding, this is M4 studding, just as a starting point, and cut a slot in it, so I've got some way of fixing the spring in the spring steel in place, and I put a washer either side, screw it down, and then put it in the lathe and see what that does. Stop wibbling wobbling. There's a slot in the middle. I've hooked the spring steel on with a little 90-degree bend in it. Nice big washer. Then I've got another washer and a nut. Now hopefully that'll hold it so that when I wind it on, it'll go on conically or something or other. I'll see if I can find somewhere in the smallest part of the workshop. As you can see, it's rather limited, as am I regularly remember, to put the tripod. Well, that'll do for a first test. Okay, I'm going to pull this taut. Now, as I say, I have no idea whether this is actually going to roll up on itself or whether it's all just going to clump together at the bottom. But I've done the nut up with a pair of pliers, and I don't know. And in fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do in a lucid moment. I'm going to put eye protection on, because these springs can really, once released, and they can do that. Ooh, doesn't fill me with confidence. Not bad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as flat coil springs, or whatever they're called, go, I've seen worse, and that actually, where am I? If that was on the centre and this was fixed, there is, I reckon, quite just enough. Ooh, it's exciting. Right, give me a moment to possibly flatten this out somehow, and I'll get back to you. Springs. Nah. That was the first one, which actually wasn't too bad. The second one, where I tried to line it all up, was really bad. I now understand why this type of spring is usually made of a flat sheet, thin, flat bar, rod, something or other, but not circular. Right, this is the change that I've made. Originally, if you remember, I was using this to calculate how many degrees, assuming it was 230 steps per segment of the clock, and that wasn't working. Another way of doing this sort of thing is to create an array, like a little library, if you will, and this is the original one where I just wrote in all the calculated values that should have worked but didn't. So in effect, it then comes through and says, okay, here's the array. So say this is going to point to 0. It goes, okay, you look at that array, read the value that's at 0, which was the biggest one, and then use that. So it's very useful because they're permanently written, and it means that you can then edit them, and I think in this situation this was the right way to go. It's much nicer to have some little calculation like that where you don't have to store a load of stuff, but this will be fine. So taking a few, as you can see, here's the original one that I've commented out. You can see this is 10 less, and they all vary slightly, a bit more this side, but it works perfectly, works a treat. But look, that's okay now. Spot on with the old pointy pointer. Now, this is where it all goes, or was going, all horribly wrong, and I will tap this to simulate it being installed in a moving vehicle. Look. It points at the right numbers. How exciting is that? Without a spring in sight, without a spring in your step. Even 11, and then of course 12 will work because that's where the micro switch is, but it works on the way back as well. I can't tell you how happy this makes me. In fact, I've got the minute hand going round to where I want it to. At the moment it's just 90 degrees apart, but that's absolutely fine, and it's continuing to go in the right direction. I recently fell into a classic trap. I will put it down to still having a horrible cold and being on Lemsip and not having enough sleep and things, but really it's inexcusable. I could cover it up, but what would the fun be in that? Let me show you what I did. There we are, set minute stepper. What I did originally was I thought, because the idea is that you, for example, here, that could have been an integer. Integers take up, is it 4 lots of bytes per number, whereas a byte takes up 1 byte, which is whatever. Anyway, a lot less room in the processor. So to be a good programmer, you always try and use the minimum amount of resources available where necessary to save space. So what I thought, well, you know, I'm only ever going to pass it something up to 60 minutes. That's well within the 255 that a byte will allow you, so let's make that a byte. And then I decided, oh, hang on, that's a bit complicated. Let's go back to degrees and all that stuff, and then trying to get it going in the right direction. So I was passing it negative numbers. And of course, dear friends, I'd made the classic error of forgotten that bytes can't be negative. I think I'm right in saying that. Integers can, they go from plus something enormous number to minus another enormous number, but bytes can't. So all the negative numbers I was passing through were basically being turned into positive numbers. Oh, again, the laughter. Oh, I'm very pleased, but just be warned, I don't know why I try and be clever like this. All this is working very slowly in comparison with a lot of data handling things, and I haven't run out of room ever on an Arduino. I've had to be very careful and cunning on some occasions, but in this situation with the Mega there's plenty of room for what I want to do, so I should just stick to using integer, stop being clever and just stick to things. It's caught me out so many times this. Sometimes I do it setting it up one way thinking I'm going to do it like this, then change the format I'm going to send and forget to do that. It's a pain, so beware of that pitfall. Oh, silly. dog taken for a walk, came back and we left it on, and it is, oh, just saw it move then, and it is 25 minutes to 5. How exciting. That's the interesting thing about having this not moving, is I like to, as I've said before, play around with time and things and change the way people's perception of clocks. So having naught, which I don't even need, should have been 1 there, never mind, add something, some magic to it, steampunk magic. So this is just stays at 4, so it's this many minutes past 4, so 35 minutes past 4, and then won't move to 5 hopefully until it should do. Now I'm not going to be hopefully awake when it goes to midnight or 0 again, 23 and then 0. So I think the next thing I need to do is to set up, write a function so I can actually set the time, because if you remember, I've got the encoded valve connected to it, so I can use that, and the switch on the back, that will be connected to the lever that sticks out this side, so that's, there we are, that's there. So what I'll do is to write a function which will tell me which one this is pointed to for the time being, because I can't mount this on the actual final board panel until I know how exactly how big it is, once Erin's carpenter has managed to put or install the wooden cupboard doors and things that this is going to be sitting on. Well, it's nearly coming round to the top of the hour, and I'd remembered, I'd just like to thank whoever it was at Lincoln Asylum event who pointed out I'd originally written ante as A-N-T-I, and it wasn't. It's ante as in anteroom, antenatal with an E. So thank you very much to whoever that was. I'm going to watch this now and see what happens when the minute hand moves up to the top, just in case, because it's complicated and my brain is a muscle, as I've said before. So let's just watch this. Ah, well, you see it's not working. It's going backwards. It goes back to that. So the hour function is working, but this one, the minute hand function, is not. Needs to do a little bit more work on that. I've just discovered the most amazing thing. Shows you the joy of not bothering to read instructions. Here's my old mat from the 3D printer, and it's all scuffed up, really worn. And I ordered a couple of new self-adhesive ones. Started to peel this up. Voila! It's magnetic. All that time I was scraping things off with scalpels and bits and pieces. You just peel it off and everything falls off. So I've ordered a new one. So I'm going to use that instead. Isn't that incredible? It's amazing. What I say, don't read the instructions. In the end, I've had to peel off the magnetic layer from the 3D printer, because strangely enough the new mat wouldn't stick to the old magnet, but it will stick to the new one. Horrible glue, very good glue I suppose in terms of gluiness, but it has taken an awful lot of scraping with the little spatula and white spirit to gradually peel it all off, roll it all up into sort of blobs, and then use the blobs to dab all over it to pick the rest up. But it's now perfectly clean, so that's great. I'll go ahead and stick the new magnetic bit on. Why doesn't it focus? I suppose it's got nothing to focus on. The term complete idiot comes to mind. Here's the lovely new magnetic part. Here's the lovely new thing. It doesn't stick, just like the old one doesn't. If I get the old one, it sticks perfectly. How fabulous. What have I done wrong? Well, they could have made a little note. I don't think there were any instructions. Basically, it's polarised that way. So this doesn't stick there. The other one happens to. And I've just managed to stick it on at 90 degrees. Now you can see the difference. That's really very sticky. Isn't that annoying? So what I'm going to have to do, because this won't slide through there by itself, I'm going to have to snip this bit off and something or other. Leave the front overhanging or so. Oh, how annoying. Interesting though. So I needn't have bothered taking the other one off. I could have left that on and just done exactly this and it would have worked beautifully. Live and learn, or not as the case may be. Been absolutely thrilled to pieces with the Steampunk clock. Because it's all now working, I finished writing the software yesterday. Just a very good day yesterday, it was amazing. Having overcomplicated enormously the original version, because as I said in the past, I really do have a problem working with time with software. I don't know why, but it all suddenly fell into place. It was so simple. What took me last time about 300 lines of code took 2 lines. Absolutely incredible, and it works perfectly. So I've had it running all day on the central time zone, or whatever, standard time zone, and it's fabulous. I'm so pleased with it, and I'm so pleased with the fact that as this turns round every time midnight, is it? No, I can't remember. Anyway, I think it's once every 24 hours this automatically resets itself, synchronises itself, and this does every time it goes round to 12, which is really good. For those of you who are interested, here's the gorgeous back of it. Personally, I would like to see that displayed. Here's the Arduino Mega and the interfaces and all the other little bits and pieces, which is terribly exciting. Oh, that's what I was about to say, real-time clocks and things, and my mind went blank. More coffee, please. The real-time clock that I'm using, the really accurate one that's got everything built into the integrated circuit itself, also has temperature compensation to make it more accurate, and the sketch can read the temperature. Isn't that fabulous? Not only do you get time, but you get temperature, so I could, rather than having time zones, I can have another little dial here that shows you the current temperature. Or, oh, stop! There's so much potential, it is so exciting. Lovely. Thanks very much for watching. I hope this has been useful. I'm always going into more detail than perhaps is necessary, just in order to help people to come up with their own steampunk machines. Hopefully see you next time when I'm going to show you how to create an amazing steampunk alarm flickering candle effect for the time zone clock.